Gary, Indiana, 1963. A small house trembled with music every single night. Inside, 5 brothers rehearsed until their feet bled and their voices cracked. The youngest, Michael, was only 5 years old, but his father Joe saw something in him that would change everything. While other children played with toys and climbed trees, Michael learned dance moves until midnight. His brothers got breaks, but not him. Joe's belt made sure of that. The tiny boy with the enormous voice became the star of the Jackson 5, performing in smoky nightclubs where children shouldn't be. He watched drunk adults throw money while he sang about love he'd never experienced. By age 11, Michael topped the charts with I Want You Back, but what he really wanted was impossible to have, a normal life. He pressed his face against tour bus windows, watching kids ride bicycles and play baseball, activities he'd never know. Every concert, every television appearance, every recording session stole another piece of his childhood. His brothers teased him for being different, for being the favorite, for carrying the weight of their family's dreams. Michael smiled for the cameras, hit every note perfectly, and danced like magic itself had entered his body. But behind those sparkling eyes lived a profound sadness. He collected toys he never had time to play with and befriended his pet rat because it asked nothing of him. Fame arrived before he learned to tie his shoes properly. Success came before he understood what friendship meant. The world fell in love with little Michael Jackson, but nobody asked what the cost would be for a child who became a commodity before becoming a person. The 1980s belonged to Michael Jackson. He wasn't just famous anymore, he was a phenomenon that defied explanation. Thriller didn't just break records, it shattered every barrier the music industry had ever known. The album sold millions each week, turning Michael into something beyond human in the public's imagination. His moonwalk debut on Motown's anniversary special made time stop. People rewound their VCRs until the tapes wore thin, trying to understand how anyone could move like that. He glided backward as if gravity had surrendered to his will. MTV, which had refused to play black artists, couldn't ignore him anymore. Michael kicked down doors for every artist who came after, though he rarely took credit for it. His videos weren't just promotional clips, they were short films that changed visual storytelling forever. Thriller featured zombies and horror elements nobody had attempted before. Beat It brought gang members and rock guitars into pop music. Billie Jean turned sidewalks into light-up dance floors. The white glove became iconic, his red jacket legendary, his single-sequin sock worth more than most people's cars. He sold out stadiums in minutes and made grown adults faint at his concerts. Presidents wanted photos with him. Children worshipped him. Other artists studied his every move, hoping to capture even a fraction of his magic. But something else happened during this golden period. Michael's face started changing. His nose got smaller, his skin lighter, his chin more pointed. He claimed it was vitiligo and a few surgeries, but the transformations kept coming. The boy who once looked like his brothers now looked like nobody else on earth. Tabloids became obsessed, publishing side-by-side photos and cruel speculation. Michael retreated further from reality with each flash of a camera. He built Neverland Ranch, a private fantasy world with amusement park rides, exotic animals, and movie theaters. Finally, he thought, a place where he could recapture what Joe had stolen from him. Neverland wasn't just a home, it was Michael's declaration of war against adulthood. He spent $50 million creating a place where childhood never had to end. The ranch sprawled across 2,700 acres of California paradise, complete with a working Ferris wheel, carousel, and zoo that housed elephants, giraffes, and his beloved chimp, Bubbles. The main house resembled a European castle filled with toys, candy stores, and arcade games. Every room contained treasures that spoke to the child still living inside the man. He hired a full-time staff to maintain his dream, operators for the rides, caretakers for the animals, security to keep the real world away. But the most controversial decision was inviting children to visit. Lots of them. Sick kids from hospitals, underprivileged kids from charities, and children of friends and employees. Michael genuinely believed he was giving them the magical experiences he'd been denied. He'd watch them ride the rides with tears streaming down his face, living vicariously through their joy. The ranch had its own train station called Catherine, named after his mother, the one person who'd shown him genuine love during his stolen childhood. At night, Michael wandered the grounds alone, sometimes sleeping in the train car, other times in a tent beneath the stars. He spoke to his animals as equals, believing they understood his loneliness in ways humans couldn't. The llamas didn't want autographs. The swans didn't take photographs. Elizabeth Taylor, Macaulay Culkin, and a small circle of friends who accepted his eccentricities visited regularly. But most people saw something different, a grown man obsessed with children, a Peter Pan complex taken to frightening extremes. The media, once his greatest champion, turned predatory. Every sleepover became suspicious. Every friendship with a child seemed sinister. Michael couldn't understand why his intentions were questioned. He was just trying to heal himself by creating happiness for others. But good intentions don't always lead to good outcomes, and Neverland's magic was about to face its darkest test. In 1993, the world Michael built came crashing down. A 13-year-old boy accused him of sexual abuse, and suddenly the king of pop became the most hated man in America. The allegations spread like poison through every news channel, every magazine, every conversation around water coolers worldwide. Michael maintained his innocence with desperate intensity, giving a rare live interview where he broke down crying, insisting he'd never harm a child. His voice shook as he explained his skin condition, his surgeries, his motivations for befriending young people. But the damage was done. Parents who'd once felt honored to have their children visit Neverland now appeared on television calling him a monster. Former employees sold stories to tabloids, each more lurid than the last. The police raided Neverland, photographing Michael's body for evidence, humiliating him in ways that shattered something fundamental in his spirit. He settled the case for over $20 million, which many interpreted as guilt, though his lawyers insisted it was to end the nightmare. His music suffered. His image became toxic. The man who'd united races and generations through art was now discussed only in terms of scandal. Pepsi dropped his sponsorship. Disney removed his Captain EO attraction. Radio stations stopped playing his songs. In 2005, another accusation led to a criminal trial that the entire planet watched. Michael arrived at court in pajamas one day, his mental state clearly deteriorating. Witnesses described bizarre behavior and inappropriate relationships. His defense painted accusers as money-hungry liars. The jury found him not guilty on all charges, but victory felt hollow. He was broke, broken, and unable to return to Neverland, which now represented failure instead of freedom. He fled to Bahrain, then Ireland, wandering like a ghost of his former self. The man who'd performed for presidents now couldn't fill small venues. His finances collapsed under the weight of his spending and legal fees. Michael Jackson, once worth hundreds of millions, was drowning in debt and desperation. June 25, 2009, started like any other day in Los Angeles, but it would end with the world in mourning. Michael had announced a comeback, 50 concerts at London's O2 Arena titled This Is It. At age 50, he needed the money desperately, but more than that, he needed vindication. He needed to prove he was still the greatest entertainer who ever lived. Rehearsals were grueling for a body ravaged by prescription medications, surgeries, and decades of physical punishment from dancing. Michael had developed a dangerous dependence on drugs to sleep, to wake, to function, to forget. His personal physician, Conrad Murray, administered propofol, a powerful anesthetic, to help him rest. But on that June morning, something went catastrophically wrong. Murray later claimed he'd left the room for 2 minutes. When he returned, Michael wasn't breathing. Paramedics rushed to the rented mansion in Holmby Hills, but it was too late. At 2:26 p.m., doctors at UCLA Medical Center pronounced Michael Jackson dead. The cause? Acute propofol intoxication. The news broke on TMZ first, then exploded across every platform simultaneously. Celebrities sobbed on television. Fans collapsed outside the hospital. The internet nearly crashed from the surge of searches and tributes. Millions who'd mocked him for years suddenly remembered only the music, the magic, the moonwalk. His memorial service at the Staples Center drew 1.6 billion viewers worldwide, making it one of the most watched events in television history. His daughter Paris, just 11 years old, spoke through tears, saying her daddy was the best father anyone could ask for. The little girl's grief broke hearts everywhere. Conrad Murray was convicted of involuntary manslaughter and served 2 years in prison. But the real question haunted everyone: who killed Michael Jackson? Was it Murray's negligence? The media's cruelty? Joe's abuse? Society's impossible demands? Or was it Michael himself, a man so damaged by fame that he could only find peace in pharmaceutical oblivion? His legacy remains complicated, brilliant, and tragic, a cautionary tale about the price of entertaining the world when you never got the chance to simply be a child.